All right, let's just jump right in. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we are embarking on a truly fascinating journey together. We're going to explore humanity's absolute greatest catalyst, the wild, untamed force that didn't just change human history, but actually created it. We are talking about the eternal flame and how fire quite literally forged humanity. So, I want to start with a little thought experiment. What if every flame vanished tomorrow? I want you to really imagine waking up tomorrow morning to a world where every single flame has simply disappeared. Not just the burner on your stove or a candle on your dining table, but every single match failing to light, every gas furnace staying ice cold. I mean, the unraveling of our modern world would happen with terrifying speed. Without fire, we immediately lose basic heat and light, sure, but it goes so much deeper than our living rooms. Think about those massive steel factories. They would grind to a sudden screeching halt. Power plants would struggle and fail. Entire global industries would just stop. Within hours, millions of us would lose the ability to cook, to stay warm, to keep the lights on. It proves something absolutely profound. Fire isn't just a tool we casually use. It is the incredibly fragile foundation of our entire modern existence.
Part 1. A World in Darkness.
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive evolutionary leap we took. Look at humanity before fire, long before cities, before farming, or even written language. As soon as the sun went down, our ancestors were plunged into a terrifying world ruled by predators. Lions, hyenas, wolves, they completely owned the night. We were hunted, we shivered through freezing nights, and we survived on incredibly limited diets. We weren't the fastest, we didn't have sharp claws, and frankly, by all measures, we should never have become the dominant species. But then, the script flips. After fire, we were suddenly safe from predators. We could migrate globally into freezing climates. Our brains actually started growing. We leaped from defenseless prey to apex explorers. But when did this magical shift actually happen? 1 million years ago. That number right there is at the center of a massive archaeological debate. Some evidence from sites in Africa suggests our ancestors might have been using controlled fire up to 1 million years ago. Meanwhile, other researchers argue that unmistakable, dependable hearths start appearing across Europe and the Middle East a bit closer to 400,000 years ago. The exact date is debated by experts, but the impact? Absolutely unquestionable. Whenever it happened, humanity crossed an invisible line. But here is the catch. For countless generations, early humans couldn't actually make fire. They just borrowed it from lightning strikes or volcanoes, carrying smoldering branches from camp to camp. Part 2. The Cooking Revolution. Because you see, fire didn't just cook dinner. It actually helped cook the human mind. This is literally mind-blowing biology right here. When early humans finally tasted a primitive barbecue left behind by a natural wildfire, they realized it was softer, easier to chew, and packed with flavor. Cooking broke down tough fibers in meat and plants and destroyed dangerous bacteria. Because our bodies suddenly spent drastically less energy chewing and digesting tough raw foods, we ended up with a massive surplus of caloric energy. And over thousands of generations, that extra energy was redirected to fuel the rapid, unprecedented growth of the human brain. So fire physically changed us, for sure. But the campfire, that was a massive catalyst for our culture too. Gathered around the dancing flames, the glowing light warded off those nocturnal predators, creating the very first safe spaces. And in that nighttime safety, human families could finally relax. They shared stories of the hunt. Elders taught children how to shape stone tools in the firelight, and these gatherings likely built the very foundations of human language and culture. Knowledge was suddenly being passed down, even though they still had to essentially borrow that fire from nature.
Part 3. Forging New Civilizations. This marks the pivotal, almost magical moment when humans stopped waiting around for lightning to strike and finally learned to create fire themselves with their own 2 hands. Once we could summon fire on demand, an incredible evolution of materials began. We unlocked the hidden treasures inside rocks. We started in the Stone Age, using fire to simply harden wooden hunting spears. But then curiosity took over. We noticed certain colorful rocks melted in extreme heat. leading us straight into the Copper Age, where we could shape and repair our tools. Then, by mixing copper and tin in roaring flames, we forged sharp, durable swords and plows, launching the Bronze Age. Eventually, we mastered the extreme temperatures needed for the Iron Age, creating iron plows that cut deeper into the soil and multiplied our food supply. Fire rapidly accelerated our ability to build, farm, and conquer. And hey, it wasn't just metals getting a major upgrade. Look at these building blocks of civilization. Fire transformed ordinary, fragile materials into the permanent foundations of thriving towns. Sticky tree resin was heated over flames and turned into strong natural glue, basically ancient superglue for their tools. Fragile sun-dried mud was baked in fire to become incredibly strong bricks for permanent homes and temples. Soft clay hardened into durable pottery, and with that pottery, food could finally be stored and preserved for months, which naturally expanded trade routes across entirely new continents. Civilization as we know it became permanent simply because of the furnace and the kiln.
Part 4. The Engines of Empire.
Across the ancient world, fire wasn't just some utility, it was literally revered as a divine power. Take the Greek myth of Prometheus, the titan who famously stole fire from the gods and gifted it to humanity. This brilliantly illustrates how ancient cultures viewed fire. It was a symbol of eternal hope, purity, and ultimate power. Behind the myths, the reality was that the strongest kingdoms in the world weren't simply the ones with the biggest armies. They were the ones with the hottest furnaces and the most skilled blacksmiths.
But, as we know, all that incredible power comes with a terrifying dark side. 64 CE. In that year, a massive, devastating blaze swept through Rome. It raged for days, turning massive sections of one of the greatest cities on Earth to absolute ash. So the crucial point here is that history carries a contradiction. Fire creates, but it also destroys. Yet even in the face of destruction, fire taught humanity to adapt. That specific disaster forced cities to innovate. They responded with wider streets, public wells, organized firefighting, and a massive shift towards stone buildings. This constant cycle of innovation leads us to a truly incredible leap. Let's compare ancient fire to industrial fire. For millennia, fire just meant wood campfires, glowing blacksmith furnaces, maybe some baked mud bricks. But then, inventors realized that boiling water creates expanding steam. Suddenly, bam, we enter the Industrial Revolution. We are talking about coal-fed locomotives crossing entire continents, steamships conquering the oceans regardless of wind, and factory boilers mass-producing goods. We literally converted raw flame into massive mechanical power to build the modern world.
Part 5. Our oldest eternal companion.
Because here's the thing, we actually haven't left the campfire behind at all. We have simply changed how and where it burns. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the modern power plant. Whether we are burning coal, natural gas, or harnessing nuclear reactions, the fundamental goal is exactly the same. Step 1, create heat. Step 2, boil water. Step 3, produce steam. Step 4, turn turbines. Step 5, generate power. That highly advanced, seemingly invisible electricity that is powering the screen you're looking at right now, the core mechanism is exactly the same as our ancient ancestors boiling water over a stone hearth. The method got a massive upgrade, but the core idea hasn't changed in thousands of years. Today, fire is hidden all around us. Think about it. When you drive to the grocery store, you are quite literally riding on millions of tiny, carefully controlled explosions happening inside your car's engine. When you fly across the country, you're being propelled by blazing heat inside jet engines. And when we send astronauts to the moon, we use towering rocket engines burning hotter than the surface of many stars. It is a beautiful, awe-inspiring irony. The exact same terrifying wild force that kept ancient humans safe from wolves in the freezing dark now quietly drives our cars and propels humanity out into the cosmos. So, the history of fire isn't just the history of a tool, it is the history of us. It transformed us from frightened survivors into builders, and from builders into a species capable of reaching the stars. So the next time you strike a match, light a candle in your home, or stare into a flickering campfire, I want you to ask yourself,
Are you just looking at a chemical reaction, or are you staring into the very soul of humanity's origin? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep wondering, keep exploring, and I'll catch you next time.